The strange wedding planner that almost ruined Amaka's marriage. They thought she was gone. She vanished without a trace. But evil like ours never dies. It hides, waits and returns. 1 year after Kelvin and Amaka's wedding, Damilola came back with something even much darker. They say time heals, but time just makes you forget where the wounds are. For a year after the wedding, Kelvin and Amaka could finally breathe. No more dreams, no whispers, no signs. They moved to Abuja, got a quiet house, had a baby girl, little Zara. Life was peaceful and quiet, but peace, it can be a trickster. It fools you into thinking the past has been buried until it comes back knocking again. It started on a Wednesday afternoon. Amaka called her cousin with a shaky voice. "There is someone standing outside our gate," she whispered. "He's been there for hours. Long black coat, umbrella, just standing." Kelvin went out to confront him, but the man said nothing. He just handed him a plain white envelope and walked away. No license plate on the car, no name. Inside the envelope was a wedding invitation. White card, gold letters. No bride's name, just a location, and the groom's name, Kelvin Ajayi. The address led to an abandoned hotel in Lagos, Hotel Golden Crest, shut down 3 years ago after a fire. So Kelvin and Amaka went there on a Sunday. The hotel was crumbling, shard curtains still hung in the windows, molds on the walls. The door creaked as they stepped inside, and yet there were fresh petals on the floor, a tray of white roses leading to the grand hall. Inside, the place had been decorated like a wedding was about to happen. Candles flickered on cracked tables. Music played from a broken speaker. Then Kelvin gasped, because standing at the altar was a mannequin wearing Amaka's burnt wedding gown. Behind the mannequin was a mirror, words written in lipstick. 1 year later, one life still hold. Kelvin passed out. They rushed him to the hospital. The doctor said it was a stress-induced blackout, but when he woke up, he had scratches on his back, like claw marks. That night, he screamed in his sleep and said one word, yes. The next few days were chaos. Baby Zara started waking up crying at the same hour every night, 3:15 a.m. Each time, she pointed to the corner of the room and said, "Auntie White." At first, they thought it was imagination, but one night, Kelvin installed a baby monitor. The next morning, they checked the footage. At 3:14 a.m., the camera picked up a shadow, moving, slow, like it was gliding towards Zara's crib. Then the screen glitched. When it cleared, Zara was holding a white feather. They went back to the old florist in Surulere, the one who won them before. She looked older and weaker. When they mentioned Damilola's name, she didn't blink. "She has never been gone," she said. "You just stop looking." She handed her a black notebook. Inside were names, dozens. Every name matched one of Damilola's wedding. Most ended with the same word, life taken or mind broken. Only one entry had the word escaped, Kelvin's name. "She wants to complete the bond," the woman said. 1 year, one soul. That's how she seals it. You broke the first attempt. Amaka asked, "Who is Damilola?" She whispered, "Bride of ashes, collector of vows. She marries men in the spirit realm and she does not share." Amaka called a prophet. He came that same night with 3 other prayer warriors. They began praying. Oil, incense, psalms. Then midway through prayer, Kelvin started speaking in a strange voice, a woman's voice. "You broke the promise. I was your first. Before her. You said yes in the spirit. I waited. I planned. And now I will take what belongs to me." Kelvin collapsed. The prophet looked terrified. "She didn't just bind him," he said. "She married him. In another word, the only solution: break the vow where it began. So they returned to the burnt hotel at midnight, 7 of them, with Bibles and candles. In the hall, the setup was still there, but this time the mannequin was gone. And at the altar, she stood, Damilola, alive, real, wearing white, hair loose, eyes glowing gold. Kelvin froze, couldn't move, couldn't blink. She stretched her hand and said, "Come back, my husband. One kiss and it's sealed." They began to pray, loud, shouting. The candles flickered violently. Wind tore through the hall. Damilola screamed. Her skin began to peel. Like paper, white dust filled the air, and then she vanished. The gown crumbled, the petals turned black, and Kelvin collapsed. He woke up 3 days later. This time, he remembered everything: the dream wedding, the voice whispering vows, the kiss in the spirit realm, the mark she placed on his back, but it was gone now. The mark, the voice, the dream. Amaka cried. He cried, and they prayed together for hours. Baby Zara slept peacefully that night for the first time in weeks. It's been 6 months. They are fine now, stronger, closer, but sometimes when Zara plays with her dolls, she sets one apart from the rest, a white doll with no face. When Amaka asked her, "Why don't you play with that one?" Zara replied, "Because Auntie White said she's not ready yet." After the showdown at the burnt hotel, they all thought it was over. Kelvin was free. Amaka had her husband back. Baby Zara slept through the night again. The house smelled like peace. Prayers were daily. No more nightmares. No more white feathers. No more Damilola. But like they say before, peace is a trickster. It lies, it pretends, and then it strikes. Zara was turning too, bright, beautiful, and full of laughter. Always talking to her toys, running around barefoot. One day, Amaka bought her a new doll from a roadside vendor in Wuse Market. Simple, hand-sewn, with a white gown and lace veil. Zara fell in love with it immediately. "She is my bride's friend," she said. They all laughed. "What is her name?" Kelvin asked playfully. Zara smiled and whispered, "Damilola." At first, no one made the connection. It was a name, just a name. But things started changing. Zara would sit in corners talking to the doll for hours, whispering. One time, Amaka walked past her room and heard her say, "Yes, I will come with you when the moon is round." Amaka swore she heard omens at night, a familiar tune, slow, wedding-like, but every time she entered Zara's room, it stopped. Then came the drawings. Zara, barely 2, began drawing women in white dresses over and over again, some headless, some faceless, and one had red lines across the eyes. She said, "That's how Auntie White looks when she's angry." One day, while babysitting Zara, the doll was no longer beside her on the bed. It was sitting upright at the window, staring outside. They froze. They asked the housekeeper, "Did you move the doll?" She said no. Later that night, Zara woke up crying. She says you touched her chair. She doesn't like that. It escalated quickly. Kevin woke up one morning with scratches down his back, 3 clean lines just like before. Only this time, he had been sleeping next to Amaka. Doors locked, windows shut. Zara walked into the room holding the door and said, "She's just reminding you, you are still hers." And that was the night they all realized Damilola never left. She just changed form. Amaka began seeing her again. Reflections in spoons, glass dolls, Zara's toy mirror, always in white, always with a veil, always smiling. Once, while washing clothes, Amaka looked up and saw Damilola standing in the compound just behind the garden. She blinked, she was gone. That night, they burned the doll, but it didn't burn. Not a single thread caught fire. Kelvin poured kerosene and tried again. This time, the doll screamed, not loudly, just a soft gasp, like something gasping for air underwater. They buried it instead, but the next morning, it was back in Zara's crib. They went back to the old florist in Surulere, the only one who ever told them the truth. She was sick now, bedridden. But when they told her about the doll, she snapped, her eyes wide open. "She is in the child now," she whispered. Children are easier to enter. Their minds are soft. She asked one question. "Did they ever complete the wedding?" "What wedding?" Amaka asked. She pointed weakly at the Bible beside her. "The first wedding Damilola planned. The first man she loved. He never showed up. She died in her dress, but the altar was never closed. Every time she finds a man who reminds her of him, she tries again." Amaka asked, "How did they end it?" She said, "You must finish her wedding. Make her the bride. Let her walk the aisle, then deny her at the altar." "But who will play the groom?" Amaka asked. The old woman looked at her. "You already know." They had no choice. They found an old abandoned church near the outskirts of Abuja, half fallen, roof broken, but still standing. They cleaned it up, set it up, candles, flowers, an altar. They brought the doll, and Kelvin came wearing a black suit, holding a Bible. Zara stayed at home with prayer warriors. They didn't want her near whatsoever it was. At exactly 2 a.m., the church went ice cold. The doll levitated off the bench, and then she appeared. Not a ghost, not a shadow, but full in flesh, skin pale, eyes black, wearing a burnt wedding gown and veil dripping with black water. She walked down the aisle, slowly, smiling, and when she reached Kelvin, she said, "I knew you'd return to me, my love." Kelvin looked her in the eyes and said, "No." He dropped the Bible on the floor. She screamed so loud the walls shook. The candles exploded. The mirror behind the altar cracked, and then silence. Her veil fell to the ground. Her body vanished into smoke. The doll on the bench, it caught fire on its own. This time, it burned. They went back home in silence. Zara was sleeping peacefully for the first time in days. The next morning, she didn't remember the doll, didn't mention Auntie White. She drew butterflies instead of brides. Amaka cried. Kevin slept for 18 hours straight. It was over, so they hope. But 2 weeks later, Zara asked for a new doll, a dancing doll, she said. Amaka asked her why. She smiled and said, because Auntie White said she's learning new steps. It all started when they moved. Kelvin got a job transfer to Port Harcourt. Bigger pay, better house, more space for Zara to grow. It felt like a new chapter. The house was beautiful, fresh paint, high ceilings, 4 bedrooms, a wide living room with a giant wall mirror, framed in gold, almost like a crown. From the moment they moved in, Zara was drawn to that mirror. She would sit in front of it for hours, staring, sometimes waving, sometimes jiggling. Amaka thought it was normal, just a curious child, until Zara began speaking in full sentences to her reflection. At first, they were innocent. Zara would say things like, "Can I come today? I have my shoes ready." "Yes, I'll be quiet." Amaka asked her, "Who are you talking to?" Zara smiled and replied, "My other mommy. She said she's waiting for me on the other side." That was when Amaka began shaking again. "It has started again, oh," she was crying. Small things began disappearing. Zara's sandals, a toothbrush, a toy she slept with every night. One evening, they disappeared for 3 hours. Kevin and Amaka swore they only stepped out to get water from the kitchen. When they came back, Zara and her bed were gone. They searched the whole house, screaming. Neighbors joined. Suddenly, they heard soft humming from the room with the mirror. Zara was there, lying peacefully on the floor. The mirror had fog on the inside, like someone had breathed heavily on it. And a single word appeared on the glass: practice. That night, Amaka had a dream. She was walking down a dark hallway. On both sides, brides in white sat with veils over their faces, not moving, not breathing. At the end of the hallway stood Zara in a child-sized wedding gown, and behind her, Damilola, smiling. She whispered, "The door was only a vessel. The mirror is the doorway, and the child is the bride reborn." Amaka screamed awake and decided the mirror had to go. The next morning, they tried removing the mirror. 5 men couldn't lift it. The wall behind it wasn't concrete, it was hollow. They called a builder who tried to crack it open. His tools broke. That night, Zara got sick, fever, vomiting, trembling. Doctors couldn't explain it. All tests came back normal. But as soon as they stopped trying to touch the mirror, Zara got better, like nothing happened. Kelvin installed a security camera facing the mirror. The next day, he called Amaka in shock. He showed her the footage. At 2:17 a.m., Zara walked into the room alone. Her eyes were closed. She stood in front of the mirror and whispered, "I'm ready now." And then the reflection reached out. A hand from inside the mirror touched Zara's shoulder, and just like that, she vanished. The camera glitched. Then she reappeared 5 minutes later, sleeping on the floor. Kelvin was crying. What does she want from my daughter? They went back to the only person who ever had answers, the old florist. But her shop was shut, gone. No one had seen her in months. So Amaka searched online, archives, urban legends, anything. And she found something. A news article from 1997. A woman named Damilola Efrinsheton, a student of Yoruba spirituality, obsessed with ancient bride court rituals from pre-colonial times. She disappeared on her wedding day. Her fiancé never showed up. Witnesses said she stared into a mirror for hours before her last word, "I will find someone, even if I must go through the glass." Zara became distant. She started drawing mirror dolls, women behind glass, and herself always in white. She told Amaka, "After my next birthday, I won't be here. I will be with my mommy behind the wall." Her third birthday was 2 weeks away. Kelvin called a priest, a prophet, a psychologist. No one had answers. That was when they suggested something crazy, that they should go inside the mirror. They found a spiritualist deep in Ijebu-Ode. He said it was possible. The mirror is a gateway, but you can't enter it physically. You must go through sleep, shared dream space. He prepared a ceremony, candles, dust, incense. Only one person would enter. Kelvin volunteered. That night, he slept on the floor, facing the mirror. In the dream, Kelvin walked into a ballroom, massive, dark, mirrors everywhere. Zara was standing at the altar, wearing a flower crown. Dozens of faceless brides were clapping, slowly. Damilola walked towards him, holding Zara's arm. "You weren't mine," she whispered. "But she will be," Kelvin begged, screamed. Damilola lifted a curved dagger, ancient looking, and pointed it at Zara. She said yes. She walked in herself. I only guided her. That's when Kelvin remembered what the florist said. Deny her. So he shouted, "No, I refuse you. I take back every yes ever said in dreams, in thought, in fear." The hall cracked. Mirrors shattered. Brides disappeared in screams. Damilola's face twisted in rage. She hissed, "You broke the mirror, but I will return in flesh." Kelvin grabbed Zara, and ran. He woke up holding her hand in real life, tears in her eyes. "Daddy," she whispered, "I was scared. Thank you for coming." The mirror was cracked. The next morning, they moved out immediately, left the house, left the city. Kelvin now works remotely. Amaka prays every morning and anoints every wall. Zara no longer draws wedding gowns, no more whisperings, no more mirror games. She plays with dolls again. Only now, her favorite color is red, not white. They say the bond is broken, but Amaka knows better. 3 weeks later, in a boutique in Oniru, a woman entered and asked for a mirror-framed wedding gown. She had no reflection. She gave only a name, Damilola.